Absolutely. And I'll keep it short because there's a lot of people here, and it'll give you a board listening to me. But so stand your ground. First off, historically, the English common law, the self-defense law, you've always had a right to defend yourself if you're threatened with physical force. Now there's different variations of that that's been adopted through the years. But the common law typically was closer to what we have currently here in Arkansas, where you have a right to use deadly force to defend yourself so long as you can't retreat with complete safety. So probably most of the states east of the Mississippi River historically held that position. Now, actually, probably about half of them now have a stand your ground law, but they've adopted those in more recent, meaning the last couple decades. But most of the states west of Arkansas have actually kind of a new form of doctrine where it was adopted, whereas the innocent man or the just man rule, where just man shouldn't have to retreat. So what you see are states like New Mexico that may not have a codified version of stand your ground, or even California, but what they have is a stand your ground law that has been interpreted in their code, or out of their code, or it's interpreted in their constitution. But they have a right to stand your ground. And I made a map, but if you go to the epistemology of all knowledge, which is Wikipedia, and you search stand your ground, there's a map that pops up, and it shows you how the states all break down. Where right now there's a majority of the states, in fact probably a supermajority of the states, about 2/3 of them, have some form of stand your ground. Arkansas fits into the minority of the states that don't. Now what we do have, and you guys have probably heard of the Castle Doctrine. Well, the Castle Doctrine is a lot like stand your ground. It basically gives almost an unfettered right to self-defense if you're reasonable in your defense, as long as you're in your home, or in Arkansas it extends past your home into your curtilage, into your yard area around. If you've taken property law, you ought to understand curtilage, right? So basically that's where we're at right now, is that we have a Castle Doctrine in Arkansas, but no stand your ground. So what stand your ground would do is basically say, if there's a person who is lawfully where he's supposed to be, his behavior is lawful at the time, he's not the aggressor, then he would have the ability to defend himself without the requirement to retreat. And where that becomes important is, recently there was a case, maybe some of y'all heard about it, of an Uber driver down in Florida. And so this Uber driver was in his car, he got cut off by somebody who was actually a bad boyfriend that thought the person that was in his car was a girlfriend he was fighting with, but come to find out it wasn't. So he pulls a person, gets in front of him, cuts him off, gets out of his car, he's approaching the car, and when he's approaching the car he said, "I have a pistol, do you want me to shoot you?" as he's talking to the Uber driver. Well, the Uber driver, who's a concealed carry holder, actually he had just finished academy as a law enforcement officer, didn't have a job yet, so he wasn't law enforcement, but he did have a concealed carry permit. He pulled out his gun as the guy comes up to say that he's going to shoot him, and he shoots him, right? So in Florida, they have the stand your ground law. He has no duty to retreat so long as he's lawful where he's supposed to be, he's not engaged in criminal activity, and so forth. So at that point, he didn't. If that happened in Arkansas, most prosecutors, the truth is, most prosecutors would not prosecute that case. And the reason is, they have a sense of justice. They wouldn't, but if a prosecutor wanted to prosecute that case, then the burden would be on that Uber driver to say, no, I could have retreated with safety. The prosecutor said, you could have put the car in reverse. The person was on his foot. He turned out the guy didn't have a gun, he had a cell phone, and he was telling him, I'm going to shoot you. I have a pistol, I'm going to shoot you. So he did not have a gun. So in Arkansas, the prosecutor could have said, you could have put him in reverse, you could have got away, and boom, that guy was never going to be a law enforcement officer. He was going to lose his job. He's going to, who knows what other things he'd have to go through. He'd at least have to go through a long trial to defend himself, which would be extremely costly. His life was going to be disrupted. But because of the fact that they have the stand your ground law there, then they could say, you're an innocent man who was approached by an aggressor, and you took reasonable activity in order to defend yourself, and so he was prosecuted. One other thing I want to point out is people all the time say it's going to be a license to kill. It'll be a license to kill. That's their defense. Well, if you look, and all you have to do is Google stand your ground, look up YouTube videos, and you'll see a lot of people who will talk about this guy who's a real idiot, who was the aggressor, who's making an argument as a stand your ground defense. The thing that is almost universally true of those idiots is they all get convicted. You know, they may make a stand your ground defense, but they end up getting convicted because they're the aggressor, because they weren't reasonable in their activity. You know, it truly is not, it's not a sea change. It doesn't drastically change things, because most of the time prosecutors are carrying out the law basically the way, you know, Senate Bill 484 would do. But what it would do is make it where that one bad prosecutor wouldn't have that tool. Or that citizen doesn't have to go through the equation in their mind. Can I, while he's faced with an aggressor, can I retreat with complete safety? I don't know. Where are we at? And he can just, if he's innocent and he's defending himself in a reasonable manner, because that requirement's still there, he has the ability to use lethal. So that's all I'm going to say, and then move on to other people.
Well, next, Dan Sullivan, the representative. Dan,